Hi, garden friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Ara, and this is Gardening on Purpose. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're a subscriber, welcome back. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. I garden in Georgia, Zone 8A. For today's video, I'll be moving around a few plants, and I wanted to show you the process I use when I'm planting a shrub and a perennial. All right, guys, so I've actually started moving a couple of perennials around and even some of the shrubs. Now, I didn't really move them drastically, but I kind of moved them over to create a little bit more symmetry. So, for example, these two here, these two uptick coreopsis right here, they were back there, right? So I moved them up here and I put the phlox there, right? And then I also moved, this is a rose marvel salvia that was actually weirdly here. So I moved it a little bit further, right? So that's really all the moving I've done so far. A couple of things, I'm really looking at the color scheme to see what goes with what. So I made a decision to put these two yellow Nephophia, also known as red hot poker, right there and right there, right in front of this bluebeard right here. Because, you know, yellow is a really great contrast for blue, right? So I'm thinking about color, I'm thinking about texture, and I'm thinking about height when I'm moving these guys around. Everybody is going to be, I'm going to aim to be 18 inches apart from center to center, but sometimes, you know, I kind of nudge it just to make sure a plant will fit. But otherwise, that's what I've been doing so far. So what I'm going to be moving today in this video just to show you is this guy here. This is a bee balm that doesn't belong back here. It's too low growing and it needs to be in the front and it needs to be in the area that actually stays more moist. I'm also going to be moving, let me show you this guy here. I'm going to be moving this limelight right there. It's too far back and it's getting a little bit more shade. I needed to get a little bit more sun, so I'm going to bring it up a little closer. I've already moved one of the dwarf Burford hollies right there. I'm going to put the hydrangea right there, right? So that's what I'm going to show you today. So let's get started. All right, guys, so this is the bee balm that I moved from over there. I'm going to put here, right? Because I only have one bee balm here and I need another one. I actually had a coneflower that was here and it made no sense to just have one random bee balm, right? But before I plant anything in my yard, guys, you already know, if you've been following me for a while, you know I have clay. You can see that red clay right there. Now, it's not awful, you know, but it definitely needs a little bit of help to help with the plants, right? So what I do is I add this guy here to every hole that I dig. This is pine bark soil conditioner. Depending on where you are in the country, you may or may not be able to find it, but it definitely is a great amendment for people who have clay and looking for great drainage and to prevent recompaction, right? Now, I'm not going to add that much to this hole because I just took another plant out of here, which I had already put the pine bark in, right? So you see how this looks really nice and eerie? Look at that, right? It's a 50-50 mix between my native clay and that pine bark, right? And it's looking really, really great. So when the ground freezes or when the sun is too hot and the ground like dries out, and the clay won't be as compacted, it will actually have spaces in there to help with drainage, right? So again, this is the bee balm, right? And as you can see, this guy, there's nothing happening here because this was already on top. I don't plant my plants flush with the ground. I bring the plant up an inch and a half up against the soil grade, right? So let me dig my hole, right? I'm going to take some of this out and place it here. Still looking nice and really nice. So all I do when I'm planting my shrubs and my perennials, right? I place it dead center in the hole, just like that. And I make sure it's above the soil grade, right? Make sure it's above the soil grade. So this is the grade right here. Make sure it's above so that when you water it, the plant will settle and it won't settle and go under the dirt, right? So I can already see this is really great. And all I'm going to do is re-add the thing that I just took out. Just add the soil that I just took out. And when you're done doing that, you still want to be able to see the top of the plant, because when we get a lot of rain in the fall, it's going to be a lot of rain, guys. Plants do die mostly in the winter and the fall because that's a lot of rain. And if it is not above the soil grade, it will drown, right? So you can see right here, you can still see the plant. Whenever for me personally, whenever I'm planting something, I still want to see the top of the plant, right? So once I do that, sometimes I use my foot to press it all the way in to get rid of some air pockets. But most times I use my hand because I don't want, it's clay. I don't want to recompact this thing by stepping on it and stepping on it and stepping on it and taking out all the air out the plant. Because the worst thing you can do is not have that oxygen actually moving around in this plant, because that will also kill it too. So that's pretty much it, this bee balm in the ground. And then after I do that, I bring the mulch back. Now, as you can see, the mulch is looking kind of thin, so I'm definitely going to have to remulch later on in the year. But for now, that's how I plant a perennial in my garden. All right, guys, here's a limelight hydrangea that I'll be moving further up into the sun. I'm in the back of the garden here where most of my daffodils are here. There's nothing much here because this is where the daffodils are sleeping right now, right? But you can see this is where this is, and this is where it's going, right? What was here was dwarf Burford hollies, and I actually still have 2 more that need to move. So this was what was here, which I love. So I moved these and put them in the bed to get a little bit more evergreen action in the actual beds. But because these guys, they did well last year, but I feel like they need a little bit more sun, right? So I'll be moving all these limelights, and I'll show you how I do it. So all I'm doing really is going around the plant, 4 to 6 inches around, going around in a circle, right? You will ultimately hit on roots, and that will stress the plant out. But, what you can do is literally cut some foliage off so that the plant doesn't have to struggle to maintain all that foliage after you hacked at the roots so much, right? I'm just going around the plant and just going straight down. Don't bring it up right now, because then you might cut the actual root ball in half, right? Which will even stress it won't kill it, but it will definitely stress it out even more. So I'm going all the way down until I know I'm all the way down on the root ball. Then I bring it up, right? Then I keep going around, bring it up, going around, bring it up. And there she is, nice and loose. Okay, so this is I'm just going to grab it by look at that, guys. Look at that. All right, so she's out, and all I'm going to do now is prep the ground over here. All right, guys, so the hole is prepped, and I'm going to put in a little bit more pine bark. I put even more when it comes to shrubs, because shrubs are a little bit more, they need to, like, their roots are going to go farther, and they need a little bit more elasticity in the ground for them to move around. Now, here's the limelight that I just took out. And what this looks like. And I'm just going to take off all the side stuff that has been rooting out, and you can see the roots look good. Look real good. Right? And then all I'm going to do is place it in the ground. Right? Now, I just ended up and put even more dirt in the ground. In the hole. I'm going to take some of that out. And I'm going to put it in the ground. And again, look for the soil grade and keep it above. Because again, we are going to get a lot of rain. It's going to be thunderstorming. It's going to be a lot of water. You do not want your plants to drown. So this guy looks great. And all I'm going to do is backfill. But before I backfill, let me show you a close-up of the root ball. All right, guys, here's a close-up of the limelight root ball. And for shrubs, I make sure I dig a hole that is 1.5 times wide that of the root ball. And again, just make sure, here is the soil grade right here. See the soil grade right there? And that root ball is right there. So again, this should be always visible when you're done planting and all that good stuff. You're done planting, you're done mulching, you still need to be able to see that. And if you, for me personally, if I don't see that, that means that plant is too deep. And soil, plants do sink, and that is what helps them to drown. So whatever I do, I make sure that this is never covered with dirt and this is always visible. And all I have to do right now is backfill. And then pretty much, once that is done, you're done planting the shrub. So you backfill all the way in, make sure all the roots are covered. And then when you're done doing all that, this should be still above the soil grade, right there. Because then what's going to happen is that we're going to mulch, and then the mulch will make up for the rest of it, but it definitely won't be under the soil grade, guys. All right, guys, all that's left to do now is to water this guy in. This is the bee balm again. And as you can still see the top of the plant. Once it does sink, it's going to kind of go down a little bit because, gravity, the soil is going to move around when the water starts moving around. But ultimately, I want to be able to see that part of the plant when it's all said and done. And I try to count to like 20 and water this guy. And even though we got rain, yesterday, it wasn't enough rain to really penetrate deep. And it probably penetrated 1 or 2 inches in. But further down, it didn't get in. So I definitely want to water this because even though it's fall, we are still experiencing some heat in September. And I just want to give this guy one good water. And then I'll probably skip a day, come back and check it again. And that is that, guys. I actually brought a 2-gallon watering can here to water the shrub. So you make sure I know there's 2 gallon that actually planted this guy in, right? As you can see, you can still see the top of the plant. That's exactly what I like to see, guys. And I just kind of go around and water this guy. So let me know what your processes is when you actually plant during the fall or when you move or transplant a shrub versus a perennial. All right, guys, so that is pretty much it for how I plant a shrub and a perennial in my garden. And I have so much more to plant, guys. As you know, I have the whole of the side yard to plant. I'm going to still be moving around some of these plants here that I'm not happy with where something is. I'll definitely move it. But our first frost date is not until the first couple of days in November. So I still have time to move around. And to be honest with you, I actually plant all year round. I mean, we don't get that cold and we don't freeze to the point where the ground is not workable. We might get a crust of, like of freezing, but that will be literally the 1 inch on top. Once we dig past that 1 inch, the soil is very workable. So you will see me out here planting in November, December, January, all depending on what needs to be done. Now, be very strategic when you're planting during the winter, but because my winter and my fall is mostly wet, I'm definitely not going to be moving plants that don't like wet feet, right? And I'm not going to be moving plants that are on the low-lying areas. So again, it's all about strategy. Know your landscape and know the plants that you're moving or transplanting. Let me know what you guys think. Please like, please share, and please subscribe. Remember to hit that notification bell so you can be alerted on all my new videos. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.